Welcome, everybody, to the Presentgevity Podcast. And today on the Presentgevity Podcast, I'm honored to welcome my friend Jim Holland, Olympic athlete, pioneering, successful entrepreneur, and lifelong adventurer. Jim is a co-founder of Backcountry.com, one of the most influential outdoor retail platforms in the world. What started out of a garage in Park City grew into a company serving millions of outdoor athletes and explorers worldwide with over $1 billion in annual revenue. Jim currently serves as co-founder and executive chairman of Backcountry.com and remains deeply connected to the outdoor community and entrepreneurial ecosystem. Before building Backcountry, Jim was an elite U.S. ski jumper, a 6-time national champion and 2-time Olympian who represented Team USA in both the 1992 Games in Albertville, France, and the 1994 Winter Olympics in Lillehammer, Norway. That same drive for excellence, courage, and exploration has shaped every chapter of his life. But what makes Jim especially aligned with the spirit of Presentgevity is how he continues to live, not just successful, but fully alive. Most recently, Jim traveled to New Zealand with plans to hike the legendary Routeburn track solo, one of the world's great walks, and in the true spirit of connection, invited me to join him last minute, turning the solo pilgrimage into a shared adventure. And Jim embodies what it means to seek presence over comfort, experience over routine, and aliveness over autopilot. He's a reminder that longevity isn't just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years. So, Jim, welcome to Presentgevity.
Yeah, good to be here, Michael. Nice pivot, by the way, on signing up for the New Zealand trip at the last moment. I think I talked to you maybe 4 days before departure date and mentioned I was going, and you said, "Can I come?" I said, "Great, yeah, make it happen." Good pivot. Good spontaneity.
Well, it coincided with this starting of this podcast. I had just recently recorded episode 1, talking about how important it is to live in the present, and then this popped up. And so it is a test to see if I would walk the talk or just talk the talk, and it was awesome to pivot like that. And
yeah, a footnote, by the way, on the introduction. I'm no longer on the board of Backcountry. Backcountry was acquired by CSC last year ago, September.
And so, what are you still involved with Backcountry?
I still interact with the people there and talk to the CEO intermittently, but not fully engaged anymore. No.
Well, one of the things I loved about our time in New Zealand is hearing your story firsthand from you of the challenges it was to create Backcountry, and I mean, it's everyone's dream company after the fact of starting off in the garage, and from the garage to the success you experienced. That was so great.
Yeah, it was a fun adventure. It combined a bunch of things that I got excited about, computers, technology, outdoor adventure, and gear. And I like the challenge of making a business work. I think that was something that I always got excited about. My dad was an entrepreneur, and I think some of that rubbed off on me, as often is the case. Yeah.
Well, I've written down some questions, and we may or may not follow these as an outline, but that's the first question I wanted to ask you is, what is it about adventure that calls you, whether going down an alpine ski jump, starting a business out of a garage? I mean, you could travel anywhere comfortably, yet you choose things like flying across the world to hike a demanding trail solo. What is it about solo adventures that makes you feel alive that you can't get anywhere else? I mean, alpine skiing is definitely a solo sport.
Ski jumping, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I love the outdoors. I love just exploring and seeing new places, and I love the uncertainty. There's something with that adventure that is rooted in the uncertainty. You don't know what's around the next corner. You don't know quite what to expect. Sometimes you get a thunderstorm when you're on the top of Lone Peak, and you just got to deal with it. But I've certainly signed up for a lot of amazing adventures in my life and had some fun experiences. Utah is the epicenter of outdoor adventure, and been very fortunate to have spent a lot of time living in Utah.
Well, that's where I'm at now, and I know you have a home here, and you also where are you today?
I'm in Austin. Yeah. I
And you're
split
just
my time
bouncing.
between Austin and Park City now.
Ah, great. No, it's always great when you're here in Utah, so I can see you. But it's great when you're in Austin. We meet up in we met up in L.A. and then flew to Auckland, and
Yeah. That was a great adventure. I like the spontaneity of it. We were just kind of winging it and conferring with Chat GPT and Grok to try to figure out what the next steps were every step of the way. Just got in the car and saw the turquoise waterfalls and the sights.
yeah, I just kind of want to walk through what we did and share that with people. I mean, and I'd never been to New Zealand before, and so many people have said, of all the places you've been, this one I'm most jealous of. New Zealand, what was it about New Zealand that called you to do this great walk?
I've been to New Zealand a few times. My ex-wife was from New Zealand, and so I've probably been there 5 times or so, and have hunted down the great walks and the great adventures. And the Routeburn track was something that was on my punch list for a long time. And I was just watching the availability in the hut systems, and I noticed 2 openings. And so I figured you gotta seize the day, seize life by the nards, and I just pulled the trigger and went for it.
That is so. I love that, and I tried to find an opening in those huts after I heard you were going. Well, let me back up. Just before, what are the great walks for people? I didn't know what they were. I mean, how did you even know about these great walks?
Just spending time in New Zealand there, the great walks that New Zealand refers to some of the major treks within the confines of New Zealand as the great walks. So that's what I'm referring to when I say a great walk. The Milford Track is another one, and there's some that explore the area around Mount Cook that we didn't get to see because the rain came in. But I was very fortunate with the Routeburn Track. One of the officials on the track pointed out that the weather had been terrible since October. They hadn't had a full day of sun, and the clouds just broke as soon as I got on the trail, and it was epic. It was unbelievable.
So
tons of waterfalls.
That is outstanding that there was blue skies while you were out on the Great Walk. Was that just coincidence, or was there causation to that?
You can't help but wonder, can you? Yeah. You and I have been on a similar journey, and we've both been kind of on a parallel path, I think, in our mid to late 50s, trying to explore the nature of reality and trying to understand what's at the root of it all. And we've connected over that.
I love our conversations, and this included about that, and we were listening to some. I was going to say books on tape. Of course, that dates us to what we used to listen to Audible, and one book in particular, "Stalking the Wild Pendulum" by Itzhak Bentov.
That was fascinating.
And, what jumped out to you from that book?
The first thing that really struck me was he was talking about a thought experiment that a lot of people refer to, where you toss 3 pebbles in a pond, and the pebbles each make a wave pattern, and the wave pattern creates an interference pattern in the surface of the pond. And he talks about how you could freeze the surface of the pond moments after dropping the 3 pebbles in the pond, and you could take any piece of that frozen surface of the pond and you could shine a light through it, and it would generate the hologram of the situation in the pond, and from it you could deduce the size and shape and velocity that the pebbles landed in the pond at, and that was fascinating to me. And I started contemplating as he talks through things in a very well thought out order, and he was talking about how everything is waves. That he was talking about gravitational waves and how the planets affect each other, and even an asteroid affects the planets, and how the emotions that you feel generate electromagnetic waves, and those waves propagate and affect the people around you, and how electromagnetic waves propagate indefinitely. They diminish over distance, but they never disappear. They continuously propagate. And I had the awareness, as you know, as we were listening to the beginning of that book, that holy crap, the entire universe is effectively that same story applies to the universe, in that you could take any small, tiny square centimeter of air or any piece of the universe, and in it, the whole universe is reflected in the same way. It's just orders of magnitude more complicated than the 3 pebbles thrown in the pond. But that was like a dumbfounding epiphany that struck me, as you know, when we were driving across country in New Zealand.
I loved how many times we'd hit pause and just like, what just happened? And didn't have to talk about what he was sharing. And that was from the 1970s.
Late 1970s, he wrote that book, and I haven't heard anything. I almost finished the book at this point, and I think you finished it. I haven't heard anything in the book that is at odds with what science has since uncovered and what has emerged since 1979 when he died in a plane crash.
Yeah, it was amazing, and you know, one of the things that about the weather that you experienced and the coincidence or causation is the power of the mind, the power of the heart, the power of these ripples to affect everything else, and you know, to have someone say that not the weather hasn't been this good since October for the 3 days that you happen to be walking it. Yeah,
just my luck.
Well done.
Yeah, just my luck.
I like to believe
that that's just my luck, but I clearly wonder the extent to which you create your own reality. I think you do create your own reality, and I think that's how that unfolded.
Now, you've been doing work with people like Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the power of the mind, and becoming supernatural. You know, what else have you experienced besides weather control or influence? You know, or that you've noticed consciousness. I mean,
yeah, I had a profound experience once on an airplane. I think I relayed that to you. I was coming back from a meditation retreat where I'd spent a week meditating, probably meditated for 40 hours or so. And I was just sitting on an airplane with a neck pillow on, just sort of spacing out. And somehow I just connected to, I don't know what, the universe. It was like I went into another dimension. It was the most profound experience of my life, just sitting on an airplane with a neck pillow on. And I don't know how I did it or what I did, but it just blew my mind. It was unlike any experience I've ever had. There was this profound feeling of love and connection and oneness. And it was just sort of raining epiphanies. And I remember trying to write down what I was experiencing because it was so mind blowing. It was just like, I was just aware that consciousness is everywhere. And epiphanies were just, I was just like absorbing epiphanies. It wasn't like, it's hard to explain in words. And I've since listened to countless near-death experiences and other people having seemingly mystical experiences like this. And people describe it in similar ways. And people often say it's hard to describe in words. And I think it's because it's not an experience that you experience with your five senses. That was my takeaway. It was like people talk about connecting with the field, and you hear about many of the great scientists and inventors of humanity, of the history of the world, had a practice of meditating. Or Richard Feynman used to sit in deprivation tanks and do things to connect with that, whatever that is that's out there. There's something out there. There's something profound out there. And that's what it felt like. It felt like I was just absorbing awarenesses. It's not like I was hearing a voice, or it's not like it was coming to me sequentially. It was just like, I just understood that there's life goes on. There is no death. And death is something that's unfortunate and negative and scary for people that are left behind. But death, I had this awareness at the time that death is like awakening. Death is like ecstasy. As crazy as that sounds. And mind you, I have to condition that with some background on me and how I think. I'm not someone with rainbows coming out my ears. I am very logical, left brain, analytical, science driven, show me the data kind of guy. I was an atheist for years and read all Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris, and I don't know what I am now. I still think there are some very crazy aspects of religion, and religion has done some damage in the world. But I think that there is some basis for religion, and I have a new awareness, and it totally changed my perspective. Just an experience sitting on an airplane with a neck pillow on. Wacky. Have you ever had any experiences like that?
Not on an airplane, but I have had experiences like. How long ago was it that happened?
It was on December 11th, 2022. A little over 3 years ago.
I pause. I just got chills down my back. That was my brother's birthday, December 11th. That passed. He was born on December 11th, 1969, and I did not know that date until this moment.
That's crazy.
It's
you know what else? It's my brother's birthday.
Well, yeah. So this is what coincidence looks like real time. That's beautiful. Thank you.
I've heard you talk about your
divine.
brother. I've heard some of the story.
Yeah, and
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. Beautiful, crazy for sure. Oh.
My brother Joe's birthday as well. He was 2 years older. He's 2 years older than I am, and he gave me a fake ID, so that I have his birthday well ingrained when I was underage, drinking at spring break in Florida, Fort Lauderdale.
I said 69 for Rick's birthday. He's actually 67, just doing the math, because I was born in the 70s, and he's 2.5 years older than me. And
my brother Joe is 2.5 years older than me too.
Yeah, you're July 4th. I'm July 1st. So that would be plus or minus 3 days. Yeah,
wow, that's really weird.
Wow, I'm dumbfounded. where do we even go from here? And that's so beautiful. And how has that experience impacted your life since 2022?
I've just become fascinated with understanding what's out there, with trying to understand the nature of reality to the extent that I can understand it. And I've I've just been studying it and reading books and listening to podcasts and listening to smart people interviewed on YouTube talking about this. And it's been fascinating. I think it's really a fascinating topic. It's at the root of everything. What is at the root of everything?
Yeah, and I think that really speaks to what this present moment is all about. And one of the things that uh, I like to talk about is time, and I know you do too. And the two types of time that it's just fascinated me to even learn about. Chronological time, everyone knows about, on the horizontal, from the future coming through this moment, going into the past. But Kairos, or the eternal now, if you take that timeline and collapse it into a vertical, where there's part of us that's still in New Zealand. What's happening in our consciousness from New Zealand is now part of our present reality here and now. People who've passed before us are here now in our hearts and in our minds and our consciousness. They live on in us. And
I think a
I,
conclusion of an understanding that came out of general relativity that Einstein seemed to grok was that all time exists at once. How you get to that, I don't know exactly, but
there's a saying that if you ever could step fully into the present, into the eternal now, that you can never leave. You've entered eternity. And I think that there's glimpses, like what you said. Your experience in saints, sages, and mystics have experienced those glimpses of that eternal now. But we're also simultaneously, as a both and, in it all the time. We just wander off in these mental constructs and of worries about the anxiety about the future, depressions about the past, regrets.
yeah, I have a thought. So I've been approaching this exploration and trying to understand the nature of reality to a large degree from a scientific direction. And something that I think an interesting thought experiment is to contemplate time and space and consider this. Imagine there's a spaceship that is traveling at half the speed of light. Imagine we have the technology to travel at half the speed of light. And there's a headlight on the spaceship. And you turn on the headlight. What happens?
Does the light go half the speed, or does it go past the speed of light, accelerating from the speed of the spaceship?
Right. Speed of light is a constant as far as we understand. And so something breaks there. Something has to yield. So a speed is measured in meters per second or miles per hour. That's distance, that's space divided by time. And so if the speed of light is constant, if we know that to be true, one of those two things or both of those two things has to yield, which immediately calls into question the foundational basis, the nature of space and time. Is space and time really a foundational aspect of science? Like there are, when you create any theory or hypothesis or postulate, you start with some base assumptions. Like, for example, gravity. There's this thing called gravity, and I'm going to build my postulate on that understanding. And so we just accept there's this thing called gravity. We don't know what the hell it is, but there is this thing called gravity. But we've long created theories and postulates and hypotheses based on space, the basis, foundational basis, and understanding that there's this thing called space and there's this thing called time, and that seems to break down. You know who Donald Hoffman is? Have you ever?
Yeah, you've sent me quite a few of his talks. And
Donald Hoffman is an interesting guy, and he points out that space breaks down at, I think it's 10 to the minus 33 centimeters. It doesn't. It can't exist. You need a smaller and smaller, shorter and shorter wavelength to measure things that are tiny, that are on the quantum scale. And at 10 to the minus 33 centimeters, you need to create so much energy to create a wavelength that would be able to measure something that size, that you create a black hole. And so, obviously, space is meaningless at that dimension. And in a black hole as well, a black hole is huge. And we know that space like crunches and shrinks down and basically becomes meaningless and nonsensical in a black hole. So what do you do with that? Chew on that for a minute.
I think I need to push pause and do just that. That is, I mean, that is amazing. I love how your mind works and how brilliant you are. And
I'm just reading, studying this. Yeah.
I want to just take us back to New Zealand for just a minute. Take us out of the black hole to New Zealand and put you back on the Routeburn track. And what was that like for someone who may have never heard of it or may be thinking about going? What was the I personally need to go back because I was hiking Ben Lomond because I didn't get the reservations for the huts.
It's a 3-day hike. Well, some people back in the day, I might have done it in a day when I was a little more hardcore, but I like to take my time, and I'm not as physically fit. As you know, I have Parkinson's, and that affects me. I did some shuffling up the trail when I was not on with respect to my medication, but it's absolutely mind-blowing. I took a video and watched the video, and it doesn't begin to do it justice, but it makes me think of Telluride on some levels, in that like in Telluride, Colorado, you often find yourself looking straight up, getting a crick in your neck, looking at the peaks that are just virtually straight up above you. And that was the case much of the hike. I took 3 days to do it. As I said, there are countless waterfalls, and there's just pristine turquoise water and turquoise rivers and icy cold streams. You can jump in and get your cold therapy. There's a hut system they're just basically rudimentary huts, but they have gas stoves, and it's a roof over your head, and you're in a bunch of bunk beds with a bunch of people snoring and farting, but it's good camaraderie and a lot of good, cool people hiking the trail, or the track as you call it in New Zealand. But it's beautiful. Glaciers, lots of glaciers.
Well, it'd be awesome to get that video of it and upload that to YouTube and put it in the description so people can see that here.
Yeah, I can send you some pictures and some videos. You're welcome to insert something if you want to. Yeah,
that would be awesome. And I just want to keep talking, but this is just getting started with the podcast, and I see why podcasts are like 3 hours long.
Yeah,
and some of my the highlights for me, I mean, the whole thing, just the not knowing what we were doing and knowing that that's how you like to travel too. I'd like to not have any all dialed in, like, there's some some
That
pins
way,
in the
that way
map.
you can let things fall into your lap. You can let synchronicities happen, and you can let the path find you.
I think that's such an important principle, because we're so busy trying to control our lives, coming from the head of, okay, I need to do this on our checklist, but instead of just getting into the flow.
Yeah, I'm inspired by Michael Singer. Have you read any of his books?
The Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story, and one that I relate to. I think like I think like him. Like he's kind of an intellectual and an academic, and he's very analytical and logical. But then he has had this profound life where he just sort of didn't listen to the nagging voice. He followed his heart, and step by step throughout his life, he had some amazing, unbelievable experiences that just were mind blowing.
Well, meeting you and this trip has been mind blowing. And one of the things you mentioned that having Parkinson's, just being seeing you not let anything slow you down, or just being as optimistic and as you are is just so awesome. And is there anything you'd like to say just about what you've learned from this journey?
Yeah, I think attitude is everything. You can choose to see things from many different perspectives, and choose the glass half full perspective. Um, I think that's very important, and that's something that that's a path I've followed my whole life. I think that's largely at the root of happiness, and the secret to success is a positive outlook and seeing things from a positive perspective.
I love that video you sent me after we got back with the ice storm that came through, of you and your daughter in a cardboard box, you know, going down the hill.
Yeah, I could hear it. I could hear the rain turning to ice, turning to snow and ice in the middle of the night, beating off the roof of my house. And woke up in the morning here in Austin, Texas, and it was 21 degrees, and there was an inch of ice on the roads. So we got a cardboard box and put packaging. You put packaging tape on the bottom of a cardboard box, and it's slick as hell, and effectively a sled. And it was actually so fast that we couldn't go from the top of our driveway. We had to hike way down. It was like a luge run.
That's the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. When life gives you ice storms, make a cardboard luge sled.
Yeah. I think that's rubbed off on my daughter. We like to go out in pummeling rainstorms that you tend to get in Texas. You can get rainstorms where it's just an umbrella. An umbrella keeps maybe the top of your head from getting wet, because it's just raining so hard. And we just put on some boots and get an umbrella and go walking in the rain or swim in the pool.
I loved witnessing firsthand just what a great dad and how important family is to you, and your interactions with your family, and that was a real treat and gift as well.
Yeah.
Well, just to wrap up, I've got a final question that this may become the question we ask everyone. And again, thank you for being the first of what will hopefully be many podcasts and guests on the Presentgevity podcast. But so right now in this season of your life, what feels most alive and most present for you, and also what advice would you have for other people to people listening to be able to embrace the present?
be curious. I think curiosity is important. I learn a lot from my daughter, just watching my daughter. Kids by their nature are very present, and we spend a lot of time just down on our knees, like watching ants come. You ever watch ants, like a line of ants? They've found something in there. They come up to each other and they touch their antennas, and then they scurry off. And we just sit and contemplate, what is it like to be an ant? Like, what is that experience like with have antennas? You can't even imagine that. And we have lots of experiences like that. My daughter Juniper grounds me and brings me back to the present moment oftentimes. But I think you're on the right track with your podcast. Being present is key.
Well, thank you. I've just got a little outro here to read. And if this conversation has stirred something in you, that pull to be more present, more alive, more connected, I invite you to explore this in your own life. You can learn more at presentgevity.com or come practice this way of living with us in our community of practice at school.com/presentgevity, because living the good life isn't just about adding more years to your life. It's about adding more life to your years. And that only happens right here and now in the present. Well, thank you, Jim.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael.
And
take it easy.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.